here and anyone watching. And I'd like to welcome Michael Herman, our liaison, and also Ed Eichner, the town's technical consultant. Good morning, everyone. We scheduled this meeting. This is not our normal scheduled time, but we wanted to have further discussion on our fiscal 24 budget needs request. And so that's the primary purpose of the meeting today. And do you all still have the draft funding request that George Meservey gave us at our last meeting? Okay. So that's sort of the base from what we're going to have discussions today is items 4, 5, and 6. Items 1, 2, and 3, as George explained, were required for permit compliance, so we're not discussing those today. But 4, 5, and 6 are additional water quality funds that this committee would like to potentially request and finalize, setting some more clear goals for how to do this and make sure we all agree on how we want to proceed. I sent some examples for the item number 4, which is water quality data analysis and report. This was a draft again with a funding request of $26,500. Part of that in the past, our committee has discussed responding to needs and requests from citizens and some of our monitoring volunteers for more information on our water quality results. Yes?
I think we just want to clarify, we had a quick meeting with George on last Friday, and these 3 items, 4, 5, and 6,
Yes.
not part of the normal budget process for the town. They would come from special revenue funds, so it's not going to impact your taxes in any way.
Good.
I assume he's looking to fund it from free cash, but isn't it still a
No.
warrant?
No.
It's,
From wastewater.
Rental tax is what he said.
Yeah.
The rental tax.
Which is
Short-term
going into
rental, yes.
wastewater.
Yep.
And
We did
related.
mention that, yeah, and it wouldn't impact property taxes.
I know that was one of your concerns at the last meeting, so.
So I guess the only thing I would say to that is that short-term rental tax is what pays the debt service on all of the sewering and the wastewater
Right.
plant. It pays for all of the estuary work and all of the work that's done. It pays for a lot of things. It's not an endless fund. It
No.
is still,
No.
the select board clearly still needs to prioritize
Oh,
what
yes.
gets
Right.
paid out of that fund.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep, just wanted to, I guess, clarify that. Thank you, Carolyn, for doing that. So we've had discussions, I know Judith in the past has mentioned the website, ways to communicate
Yeah.
the information to interested citizens and other interested parties. Judith had mentioned the Center for Coastal Studies interactive website. I did some Googling, and Ed Eichner also provided some information on some local areas that had set up websites that feature water quality, presenting trends, health indices, and things like that. So that's what I sent you earlier, some examples.
And I was just going to say, and Ed, I thank Judy off the air, but I'll thank her again on the air, and thank you as well. These are really great examples, and this is just, I think, exactly what our citizenry have been looking for and would love to see. And thank you for helping with that research, because these are great.
Could he hear you? Did you hear her?
Yeah.
Okay, well, your face had no change in expression, so I couldn't tell.
Thumbs
It's
up.
hard when you're doing this with Zoom participants sometimes.
Zoom is not always easy.
Yeah, or I'm bad at reading facial expressions. And so my understanding also is that, earlier, last month, I believe it was, I sent you a couple summary reports that were done by SMAST in 2019. They were water quality annual summary updates, which I learned, were discontinued in 2019 and are not done again. We do need to update our data since then in order, that's part of the process to be able to then present the current data, bringing it forward on a website. so, and Ed, anytime you want to jump in and clarify for me, because this is all, I'm sort of, one has
guys
to be
are-
done to support the other, correct? And so it's like a two-phase thing, doing a summary update and then developing this website, interactive website that we could potentially do.
Absolutely. The
So-
question, the question is, and we've talked about this before, Judy, is really what your goals are.
Right.
And figuring out what your goals are.
Right.
So I'm sorry, I guess I don't understand. What I was seeing on these websites was pretty simple parameters. For the most part, it looked like nutrients, chlorophyll. Some did Secchi. I don't think I saw any of them with oxygen, which I thought was interesting.
Oh, no, I did.
But pretty simple parameters, just indicating that with no kind of analysis. Well, we've got that.
Yes.
I mean, we take that twice a year for our freshwater ponds, and we take that 5 times a year for our estuaries. And SMAS Labs kindly does a fabulous job of analyzing the samples, and they give us back a spreadsheet that has nitrogen and phosphorus
Yes.
and chlorophyll. So I guess I'm not sure what the summary is before it goes onto a website.
Well, you need to be able to update the data and interpret it so that you can do those health indices, if that's what we aim to do, which I've been hearing that, the, sort of what Duncanson did, which is sort of based on the Buzzards Bay Coalition health indices, which I believe Brian Howes collaborated to help develop that one with Buzzards Bay people. Is that correct, Ed?
Yeah, Brian developed the original.
Right, and
index.
that was sort of based on the Carlson Trophic Index, right, for freshwater?
No.
No?
You're mixing and matching. You-
Okay.
Dun-
all right.
Duncanson's was-
Brian did the one for the estuaries. Carlson out in Minnesota, or was it Wisconsin, did the one for lakes.
Right.
Okay, I guess I didn't realize that needed interpretation. I thought that was a
Well, if you-
a relatively easy plug-in, the sort of the values of the numbers and get a,
Yeah, well, you need to do to depict the trends and things like that. You do need to do some interpretation.
If I could just
Yes,
jump in
of
for a
course, Ed,
second.
please.
Part of, so this goes again to that question of really what you're trying to get to. If you're in fact trying to go for trends, that's a different kind of calculation and a different kind of assessment of whether that is in fact really a trend or if it's just the way the numbers, it's not statistically relevant. If it's not statistically relevant, it's not a trend. So part of going through and doing that kind of effort is try to make sure that when public policy gets driven, that you've actually got something that you can rely on.
so I guess that's what I was thinking as a sort of a two-step, that an initial would be just a depiction of what we're seeing year by year, not with interpretation, not with analysis, not with trends. I think we have and we need to continue at the update and then going forward. We can pick the time frame every 10 years, I don't know, whatever, to have then good interpretation and a summary that says, all right, this is what's happening now. This is what we see, and this is what seems to be the trend with this particular water body, be it a estuary sampling station or be it a freshwater pond. I don't see that we would need interpretation every year. I mean, I think that would be really overkill. And I think to the extent that we can have something that's just really simple for people to follow. Again, like what we're seeing, personally, I like the graphics on the Buzzards Bay, but I mean,
I do too.
I like the Buzzards Bay graphics, and I like the island for their narrative, their photos, their discussion, if you will, not around water quality, but just about, this is about the pond.
They have those summaries, those
Yeah.
two-page summaries.
Yeah, which is nice. But the ongoing, I wouldn't want to lose that narrative summary with interpretation that speaks to trends. And of course, neither of these really has, I won't say they have nothing to do with the assessments and management plans that we do. I mean, sure, you look at the data and say, whoa, look at that. Is that significant? Is there a trend? Is there a problem? That's when we need SMAST and Ed to give us that kind of interpretation. From there, then, they get into the in-depth assessments, which from that generates a management plan, which in turn generates a recommendation from us to the select board for treatment. But I think that's all at a level of increasing. I'm just talking about the big picture, where those who are doing the sampling, those people who live on ponds, those people who have a particular interest.
Okay.
We just went dark.
Well, nobody's moving around in the audience, so we just went dark, yeah. I don't know how to get that to stay
We're saving
on.
money.
Go, just,
The water gods
move.
didn't like what I had to say, Ed. I mean,
no, there it is. You have to move around, I'm sorry.
I hit the sensor.
It could be my misuse of the term when I say trends. What I'm referring to are the graphs that, let's say, are for dissolved oxygen, and it shows decreasing DO over time. So that, to me, that's I use the word trend to show whether it's going up or down. Same thing with the numerical health score that some of them use, for Bay Health, which is made up of different parameters. You can, the colors change, whether water quality health appears to be, in my opinion, I look at it as trending up or down. That's what I'm talking about. So maybe I'm using the wrong word.
I think Ed's making a good
Yeah.
point. Whether what you see as a line
Right.
that's tending downward is a real trend or not is, and a significant trend, is something that you would then need to interpret for the public rather than just letting it sit there and with this declining line or whatever.
so that's why I think we need these better summaries, these more, in-depth summaries. I mean, not the full assessment of a management plan, but a summary that says something's happening here. Is it good? Is it bad?
Okay, so
And
how
I
can
think
we-
as well that there needs to be, or certainly could be, some general information to the public so that when they're looking at this, they can understand, for instance, that generally speaking, high oxygen is a good thing, but if you see high oxygen and low Secchi, that's telling you that what you've got is algae blooms, and that's not a healthy pond. So not all high oxygen may be good. I mean, you can have those kinds of things to give people some guidance as to what they're looking for.
Okay, we need to
We're looking at-
reword this thing, so can we go back to doing that?
Oh, rewording the draft scope?
Yes.
Yes.
You're talking about what George gave out?
Number 4, yes.
Okay.
I think I think between us, we have an understanding of where we want to go.
The draft minutes that I sent on.
I can read the original, just so people who don't
Oh, no,
know.
that's his
The
page.
original wording, and again, this was a draft, is
you? Yeah.
residents regularly request information on the health and trends of the water bodies in and around town. This effort would aggregate and graphically display water quality data trends for the town's 5 major estuarine basins, parentheses, 3 Cape Cod Bay basins, Nauset Estuary, and Pleasant Bay. A summary of the town's robust data sets has never been done and will support public understanding of water quality issues. That was the original.
So now I know where
Yeah.
Rich had gotten the 5 basins, because I read that.
I got
and
it
went,
off
"What?"
of the.
So I don't think 5 basins is really going to do it. I mean, you've got some 15 marine ponds and sampling stations in Pleasant Bay.
I don't think I think this is just a way of putting those in a bigger set. I don't think he's talking
Okay,
about
but
not.
I think a scope for SMAST, if they're going to come back to us, I think they need to know how many, are we talking about?
All the stations we do.
Yeah, okay, so
Well,
I
I
think
think you
that's
would
what the
group-
scope should say, is
I-
all the estuary sampling monitoring stations.
But I think you would.
Could I
Group them.
clarify? a
Yes,
little
you
bit?
can. Thank you, Ed.
When we were asked to sort of come up with a number for this, our idea was sort of along the lines of what's done by the coalition and what's done by the Vineyard Commission. They group things by system, and then they have within that system all of the sampling points, so that you get a perspective on what's going on within that entire system. Actually, the Vineyard system, if you look at the way they group things, they actually group them the way that you would do it in the MEP, which is they show the gradient from freshest, most inland systems, stations, all the way to the mouth of the estuary. So that it provides a little bit better perspective in terms of understanding why, for example, nitrogen may be lower closer to the inlet.
It's a great idea. The Buzzards Bay one just sort of blew my mind. I mean, how many basins do
Well,
they have?
it's a huge system, much.
It's
yeah.
huge, yes.
And many towns and
Yes.
areas, yeah.
Yes.
So, but yes, so it'd be more grouping things within the system based on the areas.
Yeah, but you're still getting the graphs and data
Yes.
for each.
So one of my questions is, this says Pleasant Bay. Pleasant Bay and its data is aggregated by several towns. Are we doing Little Pleasant Bay or the stations that we normally do rather than the whole system? Because this,
I would think that we would just be doing what is located geographically
Right.
within Orleans,
And see if we can twist some-
recognizing that they have inputs from additional towns.
we can twist some arms from the Pleasant Bay Alliance to do the southern part in a similar fashion so that we can put the whole thing together.
You mean for Big Bay?
As a scientific approach, I would like to know Ed's thoughts on whether leaving out portion is scientifically sound, or do you want to include the entire data set?
I think, well, again, it depends on what you want, but
Right, well,
I'm thinking in large part, if you are doing a portion of the bay, you're sort of getting half the picture.
getting what?
Half of
Mia,
the
could you
picture.
increase the volume just a tiny bit, because I'm having trouble hearing
Yeah, me too.
Ed's, when
Yeah,
he speaks?
I can't hear if you're saying half the picture
Yeah.
or adequate picture.
Half.
Half.
HALF, half.
Thank you.
I'm
So,
just wondering if we could get the Pleasant Bay Alliance to chip in some additional funds beyond what's here so that we're not paying for the whole, but paying for the stations that we do, and Alliance to chip in some money to this project to pay for the southern part.
So I guess I would see that for Big Bay. I'm not sure that I would see extending that all the way down into Chatham Harbor. I don't know. Maybe others think we should be. I don't know.
Oh, we wouldn't need to do the estuaries in Chatham that go into Long Island Sound.
Well, I don't know that they all do. I mean, there are 2 breaks in Chatham that go out into
No,
the
I'm not
Atlantic.
talking about, well, I'm not talking about all of Chatham's data. I'm talking about.
You're just talking
data
about Big Bay.
Related to Pleasant Bay, yeah.
So, okay, and possibly then Muddy Creek. How does that sound to you, Ed? Does that sound reasonable? Big Bay and Muddy
Yeah.
Creek without going further south?
The only stations that you're sort of not tackling are the ones that are in Chatham Harbor. And those are, well, Chatham Harbor is becoming increasingly separate from the rest of Pleasant Bay as
Right.
it exists right now. So that's probably fine as it exists right now. Over the long term, it's eventually going to reconnect, but, that may be 5 or 6 years down the road, who knows?
okay, so we understand that it would be Pleasant Bay without including Chatham Harbor? We've had some discussions on parameters that we would want to include as far as graphic displays and things like that. We talked, I believe, about, dissolved oxygen, was just mentioned earlier. Secchi, water clarity. Chlorophyll, the plankton, pigments. Temp? Maybe. I mean, I'm going to ask Ed for his. And of course, nitrogen. And if it's freshwater, phosphorus. But I would, again, ask Ed, technically, if you agree that those are the primary ones that we might want to consider presenting in graphs and things like that for people.
Well, if I can just
Yes,
interrupt.
yes. This is an interactive discussion.
Okay. I would not include temperature in the
No?
estuaries.
Okay.
If you are
For ponds,
looking
I would,
at the
freshwater.
ponds,
Yes.
yes, you would include temperature.
Right.
Estuaries probably changes with every tide.
Yeah, I was thinking
Yeah.
if we were doing freshwater ponds also.
All right, are we discussing estuaries, or are we discussing estuaries and freshwater ponds in number
Sounds
4?
like both.
I think both.
Well,
Okay,
yeah, except,
So I guess I was thinking, that the original was talking about an update in terms of an analysis. And I was thinking that for the estuaries, I guess we didn't get one, did we? Have we had one since 2008?
on
Help
what?
me on this,
What?
I've gotten lost. On the estuaries, an updated summary, an evaluative summary.
SMAS did one in 2019.
That's what I was
The
thinking.
annual, it was done annually, and then the town stopped funding that effort. So I want to say, and again, Ed, correct me, but I believe there was one for freshwater and there was one for estuaries. I'm trying to find it here. I sent it to you.
Yeah,
I
there
think
was
it
one
was
for.
part of the data
estu-
update.
There were
I sent them to
short
you.
tech memos.
Yeah.
Probably text, I think, was no more than like 3 pages, that reviewed previous years' estuary water quality and the previous year's pond water quality, 2 separate projects. I think it was, I want to say it was like $11,000 for the 2 of them or something like that. They're full of a lot of graphs. They don't have a tremendous number of, they don't have a tremendous amount of text.
I
They give like an overview, quick overview in the text.
So I assume that that would be part of this funding request, is to, since we haven't updated now since 2019.
So I guess that was what I was thinking would be coming out about every 10 years, so that we wouldn't yet be due for that, but that what we wanted still was, again, the simplified, the graphs and the data depiction. But that was just that was my
No,
vision of what we were
Judith,
looking.
there's
you have to do
the
one to be fair to the other.
2017 is the whole shoot and match, the organizing of the database, the looking for trends and all that sort of stuff.
Okay,
There were 2018 and 2019, there were these little updates that
Gotcha.
basically looked at the past year's data and compared it to the previous big picture. Let's look at things and see how much things have changed.
And I don't know where 10 years came from, but I would think that.
I just pulled that out of my head. I mean,
Oh,
just
well,
in terms
I
of.
would pull 5 years out of mine, but.
Well, I guess when I look back over most of our ponds and the estuaries, you don't see a whole lot in 5 years.
but now we're going into a whole new era with adding pieces of our geography into the wastewater system.
Right.
So I would expect people are going to be eager to know if there are any changes occurring, and you're going to need it in increments of less than 10 years.
Yeah, and especially you also want to see as we implement, as we, being the town, not our committee, but the town, implements certain remediation efforts or as sewering houses become connected, you're going to see changes, and I think
Right, but the first year of connections is this year. And there are travel times. So
We all
you're
know
not,
that,
I
yeah.
mean, the day that you connect, you're not going to see a change.
Know that.
Well, let me just say that in some of the areas, other parts of the Cape that have done sewering, they're starting to see improvement in their estuaries, and that's been about 5-ish years.
Yeah, that I would expect. But again, that doesn't,
But that's not something we have to decide right today. Today, it's just the budget for next year, and
Well,
we
it-
can decide in the future what time we want to update that.
well, I
We
think
don't
it
have to
does,
say
Ed, because
5 or-
today we have to come up with a scope that basically tells Ed and SMAST what we're looking for.
Well,
So
that
if we're
would be-
looking for an update to the data on 26 estuarine stations and 19, 18, 17, pick a number, freshwater
Right,
ponds.
but the last update was in 2019, and now we're in 2023, and we're already 4 years from that. So it seems fairly clear we need to do one now. But then the next one, that could be left for decision down the line a little bit.
So
Not
you
to
would
do
sort of
that
see
today.
this be as our baseline, if you will?
Yes, get
Okay.
get us
Yeah.
updated to 2019.
Gotcha.
And then I heard 11, I don't know what the price tag on that one would be. The 2019, you said was 11K, Ed, I think you mentioned.
The last time they did.
But that was the small one, the 2017 big one might have been a little more then?
Yeah, the 2017 was, I don't know, something around the order of like $70,000.
Yeah, that's a big
That
one.
that was organizing
Much effort, we don't want to.
nearly 20 years worth of data.
Yeah.
So, but that was the baseline. You got all the data organized. We went through it all, QA, QC'd it and everything else. Then 2018, we're just adding on to that. 2019, we're adding on to that. That stopped at that point. It hasn't been added on to that after that point.
So what number should we be thinking about for if we do it for 2024?
Well, if the idea is that you're just updating the databases, I'm thinking it's probably closer to, $15,000 than it is to the $26,000. However, a lot of this discussion has been about creating websites and going through and creating eutrophication indexes and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's additional work.
Right, so, okay, so if we take 15 for the update, and then the remaining 11,500 would be maybe for developing the website to present the data in a more readable form to the public, kind of like what we saw in these other places are doing, that we looked at their websites, how they, and I really thought those websites were great. So I would like to see something like that in Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of sort of the details related to that come into play in terms of how much time it's going to take, and therefore how much money it's going to take
Yeah.
to figure out some of these things.
Yeah, and-
So,
yeah,
I mean, in my mind, the website design and everything else, it's already been done. It should be relatively straightforward to do that. The question really then becomes, what are the details associated with that website design? Who is going to sustain that website? Where, or the real details about what is going to be included. I mean, the way, for example, if you look at the Vineyard Commission one, they have got system by system, and they've sort of tried to create each of the pages for each of the systems as sort of a library page where you can look at all of the past database information and everything else. If you go to the Nantucket site, it's almost exclusively focused on the data and some sort of graphing and what else. If you go to the Coalition site, sort of the same thing. If you go to the Center for Coastal Studies site, it's really focused in on the individual sampling stations rather than each of the systems. So there's little nuances for each of those things
right.
to sort of try to square around what you want to get to.
Well, I don't know what other people want, but what I want is very clear writing, so get good writing, that's, that the public could get engaged with. And I would like a nice graphic look to the website or what, so that it would be attractive and bring people to look at it. I mean, there's one thing to have all the data that we sort of go through in depth, and another thing for the public who's been inundated with, a lot of reports in the paper. You have to attract them to your site and get them to read it. So I don't know how much something like that would cost, or you need the software development. I think, to me, that's, whenever people talk website, it's always more complicated than what you might think.
Yeah, that's true. Again, it's sort of, in my mind, in terms of sort of the public education kind of doing these things,
Yeah.
you want to have something that initially engages, and then at that same site allows you to go as deep as you want to go.
Yeah.
So you can sort of, if you want to download the data, you can download the data. If you want to dig into the past reports and interpretations, you can get to those things fairly easily. And I would say, from my perspective, that's why I really like the Vineyard Commission site, because it had that kind of, okay, here's Lagoon Pond, here's Lagoon's Pond past stuff, here's, the eutrophication indexes, here's the reports, here's the link to the MEP report, and on down the line. But, at this point, I think we're going to have some discussions with website developers to figure out what they can do and what they can't. And again, who's going to host all of this information? I would imagine most of this information is probably currently on the Town of Orleans website. Question is where is it, and can all the links be put in place to get to all of those reports?
Yeah, that is a problem. I mean, sometimes it takes a while to find the reports, and I think the general public isn't going to be searching as hard as we do. Nope.
I would think that you would want it hosted on the town's website to ensure data quality and ensure that interpretations when it's needed are done by qualified technical
Yeah,
people.
definitely.
And that it's our data, it's the town's data, not merged with maybe other data that's out there. So I think the town hosting it on their website is good, and then it can be linked to the reports, the town reports and things like that.
Yeah, and I think, I'm glad you brought that up, Judy. I mean, one of the biggest things in all of this is having that information be as reliable as it can be, because in large part, this is going to be most of the public's entree to look at this sort of information.
Right.
So, and that is going to be sort of their opinion of what is going on with a particular system. So when they turn around and they start talking to their select board or their, members of their various committees about, oh, we have a problem here, I really would hope that you're going to tackle this. I would hope that it's informed by the best information in terms of the way they're doing that.
Yeah, absolutely critical.
So I think we've said that we wanted to work on some kind of website development for this year, but so I assume that there's going to be a dollar figure attached to your input on that, Ed, because I would hate to think that we would be proceeding to try to set this up without you. So I guess that's a sort of a separate thing. Again, it's the summary. Yeah, part of this. But it's the summary, and then it's the data depiction.
Right.
So the summary, we talked about what we were looking for that summary, and from all of our estuary sampling stations. But now what about the freshwater ponds?
Yeah.
Is this going to be 15 ponds? Is it going to be 20 ponds?
Well, right now, I believe this estimate, in the wording, George's wording, it didn't include freshwater. So I think freshwater ponds would increase the funding level that we would need to request because of all the data, depths involved and measurements taken. It's a lot more data to crunch, but correct me if I'm wrong, Ed, but I'm not, there may be ways to include a few of the freshwater ponds initially, and then in the future, maybe seek other funding. Maybe OPC can help support that effort. I know they've indicated that they would be willing to support a town effort, possibly in the future. Maybe there's grant funding out there to expand it, but right now, the way this is written, I didn't see freshwater mentioned, so that was something.
No, but I thought that was a problem that we had
Yeah, to
with the scope. That was why we were asking that it be reviewed.
But that may also alter the estimate to do the work, that's all I'm saying, and it won't lower it, I'm sure.
No.
So if you
Well, no,
stick with,
this,
I would
if I
like to
may.
include the ponds, believe me.
Yeah, I mean, the request, the original request that we received was to put together some sort of thing for the estuaries. So, right now, it does not include the ponds. So the question is, I think, back to you, which ponds do you want to try to add, or how do you want to do this? And again, it's the details of what you want.
Well, to me, it makes sense to do the ones that we already have a management plan for.
Yeah, I agree, the great ponds would be the first ones that I would want to add if we were
And,
adding.
I
Especially
wouldn't
because
do
of
every
where.
pond. No.
Pardon?
I wouldn't do every pond, not all.
Oh, and
least
so I'm
not
just the
initially.
other way. We've got a very in-depth interpretive analysis of all of the major ponds. I would look to have all of the ponds have some information and data.
Well, wouldn't that eventually come online as we
No,
develop the
we're-
management plans?
We're only doing assessments and management plans for those ponds that have public access.
Yeah.
We're done, basically. All the rest of the ponds in town are freshwater private ponds. They will never get full management plans. I mean, whether I happen to agree with that policy or not, that's another whole issue, but
I
that
never
was a
heard that.
policy that was established some time ago. I think Carolyn would remember those discussions.
I don't remember that ever being established.
Okay.
I mean, we have
That-
an example of a pond that had a management plan done because of cyanobacteria blooms and closures and all that.
That has
so- and-
public town-owned access, and that was one of the
Right.
reasons that was selected.
But I'm just saying that it may be in the future time, we have one of those ponds right here on this, we'll be discussing later with a funding
Right.
request for a management plan, which is Boland Pond, but,
I know.
and I don't know what's considered public access, the school kids are using it for living classroom moving forward and all that, but we'll talk about that in a minute, but.
Yeah, but we're constrained by a budget, so we
Right.
can't, there are things we want, and then there are things we can.
Right.
Exactly,
And
and
it's
I
a
think
question-
that, and back when this was all discussed, and it may have been part of OCLOP when those discussions happened, it may have been even before that, but back when this was discussed, the thought was, if there is not public town-owned access that sort of guarantees that the public shall have access to these ponds, then the town should not be using public funds to assess and fix them. The
Well-
people who live on the ponds should be footing that bill. So I
You
can
agreeing with
understand
that, or-
that. The other side of it is, it isn't just the people who live on those ponds who have deteriorated them. And so if the entire town is contributing to the deterioration and impairment of the pond, shouldn't the town be, in fact, responsible for some of the cleanup of the pond? That argument did not hold back in the day. It was, no, if the town owns the pond or the access to the pond, we will address it. If it does not, then tax,
So isn't that decided for us right now? Then we'll just do the ones that.
I think it can be raised, but it would have to go, I think, back to the select board to see whether that policy was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but-
we're kind of wandering off the
Yeah, right, we
reservation.
want to do.
Yeah, but again,
But, I
you
mean-
are and you aren't in terms of your funding.
Right, but that's discussing management plans, and we're not doing that right now. I know that our committee, and years back, and you weren't on the committee at the time, we prioritized ponds for management plans, and it was based on their degree of water quality impairments
Right.
and other factors. And so that's how Boland got on the list. But this other, what you're talking about, I don't recall that saying if it's not public access, it can't be done.
It may not have been this
That's not for us
committee that
to
made that
determine
policy.
Tonight,
I don't think-
today, I mean,
Is it a policy?
I was going to say, I don't think it's a policy. I think when we had that Splinter Ponds group that came out of OCOP, we discussed what the parameters should be. We have a chart, which I could pull off my computer. I think at that point, we were prioritizing, not making policy. And I think the priority at that point was to do, obviously, the public access and ones that provided resources for this town for public recreation. I don't think there's a policy there. I think it was a, let's do this in this kind of priority order. Okay, are we going to add a second paragraph to this that talks about freshwater ponds?
Yep, yeah.
I think we should,
Okay, let's do it.
knowing that
We're all
it is
in
going to
favor of
drive
that.
that funding request up.
absolutely.
Okay.
So I guess
Okay.
it depends on is the extent, in other words, going past, for instance, Pilgrim, Crystal, and Baker, going further than that? Is that based on what we can get for funds, or are we going to put into the proposal that we want to do also Cedar, and we're going to have?
Again,
Well, I
I
think
would,
going forward, we would like to do all
all
of them,
sampled
but
ponds.
right
I mean, just the
now,
way we're doing all sampling stations for estuaries, all sampled ponds.
So
I'm just
would we
trying to
ask for
figure-
a sample, or would we ask for a proposal coming back from SMAS all ponds, and then have them so that we can decide and say, look, we can only do 3?
I'm worried about the funding request.
Yeah.
Of the funding.
I really.
We're already up to 15. I mean, we don't have much left there.
Well, we're
so-
past that, because I don't think the
This
red piece.
figure that's sitting here is based on an interaction between George and Ed.
Right.
If you want this, this is what it's going to cost.
Right.
Expanding the scope, they're going to have to go back and ask, what's this going to cost?
Right.
I don't think we can worry about, at this point, about costing it out. That's something that they're going to have to negotiate.
In my mind, it originally did include some freshwater ponds, but that did not,
All right, let's write the
It
sentence.
didn't get translated, but I think it should. And for my money, of all the things that are down here, the most important is the data depiction and the water quality updates. And because again, I think of many of our people who have been sampling these
Right, I
ponds for
agree.
20 years.
Yeah.
They are entitled, we should be giving them feedback on what their efforts have resulted in, what the fact that this data is being looked at it, that it's being used. I think that putting this whole thing together should be this committee's #1 priority for this year.
Okay, so let's add a sentence after the parentheses that ends in Pleasant Bay, parentheses, before we get to the final sentence. Can we add a sentence in there, or more if needed,
Can
about freshwater ponds?
can we just change the 5 major estuary basins, blah, 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 to all of the estuary sampling stations to make it very clear that it's everything that we're sampling?
All of the towns,
All of the towns, yes. And then I think we also said plus Big Bay, Muddy Creek.
even though those stations may be grouped into various
Right.
areas of Pleasant Bay. Because that will also, if it's every single station, again, I don't know much about this, but I'm also trying to work within feasible cost funding request, something.
But I thought we just said that they're grouped, but you're still going to
Yes,
see the
okay, as long-
data for each sampling station.
Yes.
So
okay.
I mean,
All
I
right,
don't.
I just wanted to make sure that we were
Yeah.
still going to group them. I've not done this ever, so I don't, we need to try to.
Again, as
Yeah.
long as I'm now the sampler for
Right,
Rattles Dock, okay,
Right.
I'm going to be able to see what the data for that has been for
Right.
the last,
well, right, I know
Gazillion
in like
years.
the Buzzards Bay site, if I recall, you would go to a particular area of Buzzards Bay.
but that's now the website. I'm talking
Right.
about the summary that they're
Oh,
going to
you're
do.
talking about the
Well, this addresses, I thought, the
Well-
summary and not the website.
no, I thought this is dealing with both, when you
Oh,
talk
it's
about.
dealing,
Well,
Yeah,
correct me if I'm wrong,
Okay.
but effort will aggregate and graphically display water quality trends. I thought that was also part of the
Oh,
data
that's-
depiction, as you call it, but I see some facial expressions
Yeah.
from Ed over here, so please, I saw it as a.
I'm trying to help you here, Ed.
I saw it as a
The original,
two-part effort.
the original proposal was to go through and put together the estuaries to
Right.
look at, do this sort of interpretation, sort of like what's done for the Vineyard Commission, actually. So that was the idea, was sort of those kinds of pages for each of the systems. That was the idea at that point.
Okay. So that would be all of the stations, basically.
That would be all of the stations, yes. So they would be
Storage
grouped
stations.
by the 5 systems that are there.
Right.
I had a different,
Okay, can we write another sentence and add to this?
well, yeah, we have as Judith refers to it as data depiction. I mean, how are we getting this information out to the public in a user-friendly format?
That may be a year beyond, this is a 1-year request.
Right, but
If
it,
they aggregated it and got it ready to dump into something else, next year, I think you might get the website put together and up and running.
well, that was not my goal, but,
Well, the question is, do we have the human capability, both at SMAST and another contractor that we might hire, to get it done in a year?
question to Ed, I guess, because you provided this the funding that might be needed for this, the estimate to George.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think we're going to have a little more discussion about matching up what I think I'm hearing in terms of your expectations. So when we originally had the conversations with George about a ballpark number for what to do here, it was to put together something along the lines of what we do for the Vineyard Commission, which is, you've seen those, the one-pagers, like, that show all of the information, the variability, the eutrophication indexes, where the sampling stations are, and the data over a number of years.
But it's hosted on a website, so maybe this is my confusion. This is what I want to see Orleans be able to do.
Right,
Okay,
right. And I think that gets into that's where we start to take the trip off into a different kind of question in terms of what you want. You can always put reports up on a website.
Yeah, but-
You have taken the step of taking it to, at least what I'm hearing, an interactive kind of thing, a little bit more interactive. Not that a whole lot more interactive, but a little bit more interactive.
yes, correct.
So I think we're going to have a little bit more conversations, especially if you include the ponds.
We don't have a lot of time, I think. Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's March 8th is the deadline for,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, we don't have much time at all, and it
Right.
sounds like there's still not a clear understanding. But you guys know what the times are, but March is the time frame.
thank you.
Okay, can we go back and write a sentence about fresh water, put it in here? It may or may not get stricken, and the number may change.
Okay,
But at least we have written what we want.
Yeah, and again, for me, I would put a priority on those that we don't have a management plan on, but I would love to see both.
well,
All right, let's write it.
I don't agree with that. I think because we have management plans that are awaiting implementation, I think it's important to include those great
I don't
ponds.
disagree, but again, you've got a whole bunch of others that have almost nothing, and people want to know how their pond is doing.
How many is that?
Well, I
Depends on
was-
where you,
We're
where
only
you cut it for
monitoring about
size.
9 or 10, right, if I recall, right now?
Depends on where you,
Yeah.
I thought about 15, no?
That's
No,
good
we
ones.
didn't do.
And I will say that there isn't a month that goes by that I don't get a request from someone in the public that they would like to have us monitoring their pond. And we're not now. So that can be another whole discussion. But people care very much about, quote, their ponds, and the ponds in town, and the ponds that they use, whether it's wildlife viewing, or actual kayaking, or fishing, or swimming, or whatever.
I would initially start with the great ponds and go,
Right.
and then, because I think funding-wise, it's going to make it really expensive.
I mean, why can't we look at this as a quick demonstration with the ponds that we feel are most important? And then,
Well, I wouldn't put it that way, because ponds are important to various
all of
people.
them.
Again, because
Well,
we've got,
mine
you're
is-
right.
we've got a ton of data and information on all of the great ponds. They have
That's what I
been
was-
analyzed and assessed. Yeah,
Yeah, but the idea here is to have we're developing a new website to interact with the public. So if we use the Great Ponds, which we know most about, to develop the website and get
Right with you,
it
Ed.
operating, and then later on, when we think we have something that's good, we could add the other ponds to another secondary analysis in the next year to put them on.
wouldn't
But-
it be nice to have a report up on the website, not the new interactive website, but up on the website that tells people how their pond is doing after 20 years of monitoring?
yes, the question is where are the capabilities to do this?
Yeah, I thought that's what we're developing, is to get the data in a digestible form for the public. And we should start with a small meal, which would be the Great Ponds.
Right.
And then, once we know what we're doing, add on all the ponds.
And again, in my mind,
disagree.
the web part of it is separate from the data summary.
I agree, Judy.
And so the data summary the one was done for freshwater ponds and one was done for the estuaries. And so I see that as including all the ponds, but not, when we start with the web data
Yeah.
presentation, I think we should pick maybe, I'm just trying to I'm mindful of the
I know.
funding.
The
And
funding.
the
I'm not
chance of getting
disagreeing,
the
but
select board to
Again,
agree to it.
if
Yeah.
we now need to update all of the estuaries, why aren't we updating all of the ponds? That's all I'm saying.
If there was an infinite amount of money out there, I would certainly, yes. The goal is to eventually have them all done. I just wonder if we shouldn't proceed with something that, just pick some ones that we want to start with and build from there, but that's just my opinion.
Well, I
But if
guess
you
the other
stick a
thing-
sentence in here that includes like 15,
Up to 15?
yeah.
But
That
that
would be
doesn't.
lovely.
of course,
That would
for-
make
for-
me
for do-
happy as a
If it gets chopped
proverbial in
down,
mud.
as realities hit us,
It
well,
doesn't get, for doing a cost estimate, that isn't very helpful when you say up to 15. We're going to be asked, oh, well, how many? And
well,
which
we need
ones?
to go back and really look
Well-
at I don't have with me today the data that I would take to make that decision.
Okay.
Okay, before the last sentence, if we write in addition,
I'm taking it.
provide data, trends, and graphical analysis of up to 15 freshwater ponds.
Thank you.
Okay. That leaves room for some planning.
I guess that's all right. Make a big ask and see what happens.
Well, I'm just worried.
I know. I mean, as someone who lives on one and has sampled 7 for 20
I
years.
know. I know.
22 years, but who's counting?
They're all important
It would be
to me.
nice.
They're all important to me, yes.
It would be nice.
I'm all with
Did you say
be
provide
nice.
data and trends
Yeah,
for up to 15 freshwater ponds?
Okay. Did we finalize the parameters that we would want?
I don't think that has to be in here.
Okay,
That's like,
Yeah, it's
although.
too detailed.
It's like
again,
picking
for
brains.
cost estimate purposes, we need to, the goals, our goals.
I think we have an understanding because we,
I think we.
Websites we've been
sort of
looking
beat
at
that one
use-
to death.
Do you need more detailed information from us, Ed, to estimate cost to do this?
No.
Okay.
I think once we sort of narrow down the universe of what,
Scope, the overall
know.
scope, okay.
yeah, the counts and what, I think I've got a pretty good sense of what you're looking for in terms of the information and everything else, and probably a little bit of a pretty good handle on where you're going
Yeah.
with what you're thinking in terms of the websites. So we
Not-
we can find out sort of what we're talking about.
And not to add to the confusion and or,
I think we need a workshop for
We're
that, that's
just gonna-
separate from this funding.
right.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, I had also included as an example that EPA website where they do remediation summaries. And I think where the town has implemented remedial steps, I think that would be a summary to include if it applies in the future. I like that feature.
I like that too. Is that going to be part of this, though? Is that what you're proposing?
Well, I would hope that it would be part of it for the web, this is the web thing, not the
The web-
data summary thing part.
I think once you get, if the architecture that I'm thinking of in terms of the website, if you get to a point where you have like individual pages for different things, for different systems, you can then add on to each of those pages. You can also link and create an individual page that is
Yeah,
just the success stories or the remedial efforts or whatever.
Okay.
You can cross links many different ways in terms of how you structure that.
I'm just so technologically inept, I'm sorry.
Then this is not the place for that discussion.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
So do you want me to try to read something back to you? And
Yes.
see if it works?
yes.
Now, I had in there, are we still calling out the 3 great ponds anymore?
No.
No.
Okay. All right, so let me, sorry. I may have to change this. Lakes, sorry. I may have to fix that 15, because now it's going to be redundant.
Up to, yeah.
Up to.
Okay, the chosen data are to provide the harbor. All right, so you can, updated data, you were saying, Carolyn.
Summary update, I'm talking
Okay,
about like
all right, let me try that.
2019.
Okay, residents regularly request information on the health and trends of water bodies monitored, and I had within the town. This effort would aggregate and graphically display water quality data trends for the town's lakes and ponds and all of the town's estuarine basins, parentheses, 3 Cape Cod basins, Nauset Estuary, and should it be Little Pleasant Bay rather than?
No, with that, we just said we're going to do all estuary sampling stations.
Pleasant Bay, just Pleasant Bay, the way it was originally.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's, do you want not including Chatham?
All estuary
And that-
sampling stations. Then you don't have to list out Nauset, Cape Cod Bay.
Well, this may be for
Basins.
informational purposes
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
when it goes to.
Yeah.
If it gets through the process and it ends up in town meeting, it's informative.
Most people are not going to know what estuarine basins means.
It clarifies for the public.
it's
who will be
safer that
voting
way.
on this.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, and you don't want to, originally you guys had said not including Chatham Harbor. You want that out of the statement? Or should that be in?
I don't know if we need to clarify that.
I'll leave
We
it,
take it out.
Yeah,
take it out?
I wouldn't.
Okay. Ed's present today, so at least we know. In addition, provide updated data and trends for up to 15 freshwater ponds in Orleans. The chosen data would be presented in an interactive, citizen-friendly, web-based platform hosted on the town's website. And then the same language that George had, a summary of the town's robust data sets has never been done and will support a public understanding of water quality issues.
I don't know about the word trends now, but water quality results or water quality summary, or it's
Data
just
depiction.
data depiction, if that flies, is
Yeah,
that a good
would be
way to
good.
describe it?
Where did you want
Just
that?
put data.
Well,
Yeah.
we had this discussion earlier about
Where's
trends
that?
and
Just leave trends out, just leave it as
Oh.
data.
water quality data, okay.
Okay, great. Okay, so, in addition, provide updated data for up to 15 freshwater ponds, water quality data, right? Okay,
And summary information, maybe? So,
data
There'll be-
for up to 15
well,
ponds.
it's not just raw data you're presenting, but it would be summarized graphically.
Then the data, no, but then it says the data would be presented in an interactive
Okay.
session,
Oh,
so it's
okay.
going
Yeah,
to
that's
cover
fine.
what you want.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're pretty close to that one. So that's item 4. And yes, and I don't know that I need anything else, because, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Sounds good to me.
Deep breath onto number 5.
Yes, is it everyone fine now with this item?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm good with it.
All right. Any further comments from Ed or Michael? No, okay. Okay, moving on to the next item 5, which is remediation of Crystal Lake and Pilgrim Lake. The funding request here was $100,000. This would be for companies that do potential, well, we discussed aeration, but alum is primarily alum because of the cost of aeration, but this would be a company to actually do the permitting and the application. I can read this one if for people who need to, again, the draft scope. Management plans have been completed and recommended extending sewers. Since this is outside the planned sewer area of the consensus agreement, the short-term alternative would be to complete an alum treatment or begin an aeration project. They are both great ponds, so some of the issues with Uncle Harvey's Pond alum would not be relevant. Estimate includes $25,000 for permitting for each pond, plus $50,000 for the treatment of one of the ponds. $40,000 was allocated in fiscal year '22 for one pond. This funding would cover the other pond. That was how it was written. So, again, this is, we made our recommendations. A management plan was completed for both these lakes. We submitted our committee's recommendations to the Select Board in January of 2021. We recommended that sewering be done for the upgrading homes, major homes contributing phosphorus to these lakes. But if this could not be completed within a 5-year timeframe, which is sort of a management timeframe, asking the Select Board to consider approving an interim alum treatment or aeration to halt further degradation of the lakes until sewering could be completed. So this is basically a recommendation that we submitted, and now we're asking them to fund it if it's, this was in 2021. I believe Judith is on the Wastewater Management Advisory Committee, but we're looking at, 2028 maybe?
So, yes,
Yeah.
again, there is no formal decision
Right,
yet.
right,
But I
correct.
think there's almost no question that there will be a Phase 3 sewer plan submitted to the Select Board for their approval, hopefully to go on to town warrant for the Maytown meeting that would provide for upgrading sewering of Crystal. Some, perhaps, hopefully, all properties for Pilgrim. Still working through the whole footprint for that. That would then be on target for initiating in '26, completed by '28. So I continue to be completely opposed to going forward with an alum treatment or permitting for that at this time. I think that will be an extreme disincentive to getting the public to approve sewering. What the management plan had originally said, and I agree that we had apparently indicated 5 years, but there was a hope that if sewering was done to address the external inputs in time, that we could avoid having to address the internal. This is another $100,000. Now, it's good that we've got $40,000 still in the budget. I would take that $40,000 and put it into the water quality data and analysis, because I think that's where this committee's efforts really need to be.
I don't know if we can
Address.
change how monies were approved in a previous fiscal year. That's a budget thing, and I don't know the answer to
That was not ever approved specific to, there was never a town meeting vote specific to doing an alum treatment. So those monies are absolutely not tied to an alum treatment. The water quality and wastewater articles are always written in such a way that there is flexibility.
But this is just to get a budget number passed in case we decide that we need it. It's not saying that we're going to use it if you give it to us. So this is just to get the budget.
But if it's
And
needed,
I hear what you're saying. As a taxpayer, I disagree with that approach, frankly.
but this
And I-
again would be coming out of the short-term rental tax, right?
Well,
So again, but those are the wastewater, I can tell you, and I am quite certain that Ed can verify this, there's going to be a lot of need for additional costs in order to better analyze the whole Nauset system, whether it's Mill Pond, whether it's Town Cove, whether it's updating some of the inputs and what's been done so far as a result of the sewering that's been done so far. We're now looking at Pilgrim, the advisory committee, in terms of how best and cost-effective approaches. This may end up going back, Ed, to your original suggestion, why don't we use phosphorus-reducing septics for part of Pilgrim? That may end up being, there doesn't seem to be yet a clear plan or a way forward for this, but those last, or I guess they would be the southernmost properties on Pilgrim, are going to be very, very costly properties to put onto a centralized sewer. So maybe they will, maybe they won't. But I think it's safe to say that the, quote, budget, the monies needed for handling the wastewater challenges in this town are huge. And those short-term rental taxes, it's not, if we look at this as this endless pot of gold that we can dip into for everything that we think we might like to pursue, the town's got to do some really tough prioritizing as to what needs to be done first, foremost, and most important. And I would continue to say that, to me, first, foremost, most important, especially for Pilgrim and Crystal, is to get those upgradient septic effluent inputs to the ponds taken care of. That has to be the absolute top priority. Hopefully, that will be done in time that we can avoid having to also address the internal. I mean, those are two of the ponds that everything else so far, whether it's Uncle Harvey's or it's Baker, we know we got to do both. It's not neither or. We clearly need to address both. But this is one that maybe, if we get this done in time, we can avoid the internal. So to move forward on expending the money to do it now, to me, is
but it's not expending the money, it's putting it in the budget, but
Making sure it's there
Not
if
saying
needed.
You
we're
don't
gonna
put it in the
use it.
budget if you don't need to spend it.
Well,
we don't know that. What if something happens in the
Right.
ponds that's
Oh,
something
so
of an
if the
emergency?
ponds tank this summer,
Yeah,
then you put forward an article in fall town meeting to get these permitted, and you can move forward to get them permitted for the following spring or fall.
Well,
I thought we discussed this, and it takes longer than that to get all this put through
Yeah.
and get the permissions, et cetera.
So,
You can permit an alum treatment, I promise you. You can permit an alum treatment in 6 months' time.
so we,
it's
again, we-
possible, but I don't see any harm in putting it in the budget when you see there might be a need for it.
Right, I don't either.
well, the.
And I'm
my
also
fear-
confused about, so, again, I know that 5 years that we've been talking about, is a recommendation. But now, it seems to me that based on the wastewater treatment meetings, of which some of I've attended remotely, that this, and as you just said, this isn't going to happen until 2008,
26, completed in 28.
So now, if we go back to a year or so ago, when we were talking about this, which is where I set the time clock,
2021, our
at
recommendation.
21, we're going to be well past the 5 years. So I think it's more prudent to go ahead and request this with that understanding, because that's the rationale for it. If you were saying 2026 for stopping the output of the septics, then we're kind of more on a borderline there. But to me,
So
we're much further out from that. And then,
ponds-
as Carol mentioned in the last meeting, we don't have a guarantee that it will be 2028. I
We
mean,
also-
I don't think it's going to be earlier, for sure.
And we also don't know, the ponds continue to degrade, so we have no idea. I don't have a crystal ball, but if we ever have, a major toxic algal bloom and we have fish kills and all that, I don't want to, I wish I could tell you that that won't happen this year, or maybe next year, or maybe not 5 years from now, but I can't. And, but we already made this recommendation to the select board, and then I stood up in front of the select board this year and again reiterated this recommendation and request that they approve implementation of our recommendations. So I'm not inclined to not continue to submit this as a funding request. I will read you, Bob Mullen did send me an email, our committee member, Bob Mullen, with his opinion on this. He said, "Most important point, I see no justification for backing away from the interim alum treatments for Pilgrim and Crystal. There are no data to support taking such risk, considering even the most optimistic schedule for sewer construction, not to mention the lag in actual home connections. I'm confident those in attendance will recognize that we should not back away from recommendations by the town's experts that have been presented and endorsed by the committee." And I certainly support that. That's-
Having said all that, I would also be reluctant to go forward with any alum treatment because of the upcoming hookups to the sewers. I mean, definitely, I'm in favor of what you are saying, Judith. We want to be really cautious and reluctant, but we still want to have it in our arsenal, and that's why I'd like to have it in the budget.
Yes. Right.
I think we all said that. I mean,
Yeah, we've made
we'd
our
rather not
recommendation.
have to do that.
Yeah.
And I think we wouldn't be having a
But the select board
conversation.
has not accepted that
That's
recommendation.
correct. That is correct.
I mean,
We are
I'm
wait-
talking
We've
about,
asked them to,
right,
Right,
but they
and
have not
I-
accepted the recommendation to utilize an alum treatment, never
Yes.
mind to fund it.
Right, yeah.
yes,
So in asking them to fund it, you're asking them to
that's
accept
the
the
next step.
recommendation.
That's the next step. They do need to approve that. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
But I would want to keep it in our funding request, our water, it's in the water quality funding request.
Okay, so I would vote against that, but
Yeah.
that's one vote.
Do we need to take a vote on this?
Yeah.
Number 5?
Sure, if you make a motion, somebody.
All right, so do we know what we're actually approving?
Well, we're going
As
to
written.
request what's written in
What's
item
written
number
here.
5, so
Yeah.
I'll move that we do that.
A second.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
And just to point out
Need
that
to
the
vote.
40,000 that was allocated in FY '22, the select board has never approved an alum treatment. So I'm not sure how that got allocated to, just saying,
Right.
just saying.
That came right from our planner, right?
It came from George. I don't, he's not
Yeah,
here to explain.
Right.
All those in
Okay.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
So it's 4,
Or,
1,
Abstain.
0, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And do we need to vote on item number 4?
I think there was a consensus on it as
I
written.
think that was
Right.
unanimous.
Is
That
everyone,
was unanimous as,
Yeah.
okay,
yeah, we had
Okay.
consensus on that. I'm just curious, Ed, as a management strategy, I mean, how have other towns handled this, and as far as timelines and how, you know the data for those lakes, I don't think you can predict what's going to happen either, but
I will tell you that in other communities where sewering is either a long way off or uncertain, even in systems where sediments were not the primary source of phosphorus in those ponds, they have moved forward with alum treatments as an interim measure. And so, that's sort of a way to sort of stabilize the system, because sediments are always going to be a contributor during the summer. They may not be predominant contributor, but they will be a contributor. And that's, if you do the alum treatment, then you are at the very least saving yourself or putting yourselves in the position that the likelihood of an alum bloom is reduced.
And that's been the case, Ed, with no algal blooms?
That
Ponds
has
that have
been
had
the-
no algal bloom problems?
That is true.
Okay.
Is there any issues with regard to one of the ponds being supporting a herring run?
That has not come up. I think all of the ponds that we have looked at to date, I think all of them pretty much are kettle ponds. So I don't think there has been a herring run issue. There have been issues with freshwater mussels, but that appears to be something that can be mitigated in terms of doing an alum.
I thought Lovers or Stillwater in Chatham was a herring run,
Well, there you go.
and that had an alum treatment.
Yeah.
yeah, I think his question was, have
It's
any
the
of the, do
timing
any of
of
these
it.
ponds done by other communities, do they have a herring run? Do they have a hydro connection and a herring run? I think is that what you were asking is?
Well, I was wondering if there's any issues surrounding the herring, the time of
Certainly there's
year,
issues.
or if anyone's worried about what might happen to the herring.
It is a issue that comes up. It's a time of year application issue, and you can get around that typically with the Division of Fish and Wildlife and the natural heritage folks in terms of the permitting if you restrict to a time of year. So if you do the alum application in, say, March or April, even into May sometimes, they're usually okay. Or you can do it at the other end
Typically fall.
of summer. Yeah.
Yeah, in the spring, it would, for Pilgrim, would not be good timing with the herring, obviously. They come
Right.
in, they've been coming in earlier,
In March.
mid-March to the third week of March.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, are we on to number 6?
Yes, we are. Boland Pond Management Plan, $55,000. Year one would be analytical work in the pond, stormwater monitoring, sediment cores, bathymetric measurements, phytoplankton review, water quality sampling and analyses, and 1-year deployment of a sonde continuous, which is a continuously
Water
monitoring, continuous water quality monitoring
Monitoring
device.
It should be
Yes.
modified slightly.
And again, I think this is because in the past, our committee, this was the next pond on our priority list for a management plan based on its degree of impairment. It is a private pond. The town of Orleans owns a good portion of it. I think the Orleans Conservation Trust also has property
The
there.
schools.
Well, the school, but the the Orleans school systems is there a difference?
Yeah, Nauset?
But-
Kidding? Absolutely.
I mean, it's still the town though, right? I don't know, I mean.
It's a
Municipal, but
four-town-
it is not,
A four-town, okay.
Regional school.
yeah, but it is not Orleans.
I do know there's efforts underway right now for the elementary school and middle school to potentially begin using Bowling Pond as a living classroom. Trails, I think, are being cleared, and there's meetings to do cooperative educational programs with the Orleans Conservation Trust and the schools. So I
And it's
just,
been the
Could-
past
could-
as well.
Could
yeah,
Ed
but this
give-
is a much expanded thing.
Well, there was a classroom
Yeah,
built,
yeah.
an outdoor classroom built.
Could Ed give us a summary of conversations you've had regarding, didn't you talk to Granger about some of this, or?
Oh, well, that was part
Anything-
of my work with the Orleans Pond
Right.
Coalition.
Another hat.
They have a education committee, and one of the things we were doing was outreach to the middle school, because years ago, they had middle school students interested in interacting with the water projects. And, but then the trails got overrun, but now, as Judy mentioned, they're being cleared. There's AmeriCorps in there. The one problem, I did meet with Bob Granger, we did a walk around there. The one problem is there's a huge tree that's blocking the landing where you could actually do water testing. If the kids, if you could get the kids doing projects like that, it would be difficult right now unless that tree is removed. I don't know if it's going to be removed. I'm hoping that they would. And I've sent in information to the teachers that are in the middle school, and presumably they're thinking about what ways we could help. The Orleans Conservation Trust, I think, has a scholarship program that they're offering middle school teachers to perhaps, not a scholarship, but a grant program to apply for so that they can do projects down there. So anyway, there is ongoing interest from getting the middle school kids involved.
There used to be a nice little outdoor classroom for the elementary school. One of the elementary
Yes.
school teachers had, complete with little stumps for seats and
Yeah.
lectern and everything where the kids could have their classes outside. The middle school had underwater robots that went around collecting water and data and
That'd be
all
cool.
kinds of,
Get that going
Nice
again, that
stuff.
would be cool.
Yeah,
The
it
the
was a-
trail that they're clearing out connects the two schools along
Yep.
that side of the pond.
Yep.
That would be really great for that.
So it sounds like there's some reason to move ahead with this,
With-
this proposal to initiate a management plan.
Yeah, we were asked, I think by Michael, to evaluate our needs versus wants. Um, It's not a critical need, in my
Right.
opinion.
Yeah.
It is impaired. We haven't had any toxic algal blooms yet.
or even any readings. I mean, we monitored
Right,
it for a year
right.
with no trace whatsoever of any
And-
kind of elevated levels of cyano. I'm not saying we want them. I mean, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, that's very good.
Having been the monitor for this pond for a long time, to me, and we've dealt with this in some ways, but I don't think completely, the amount of sediment that has come into that pond and significantly changed the bathymetry of it is what I would be most concerned about. And I think remediating that would be, is not where the kids would be entering, accessing the pond, but along the opposite shoreline and the shoreline towards Route 6A, I think caused by the
Talking about
DOT
dredging to get rid of the, are you talking about dredging to get rid of the sediment?
I think that was what it would take if you were going to,
You wouldn't know unless you did a management plan and
Yes.
you went through that whole
Yes.
process that we've already been.
I
down
think this is
before.
in
It's usually
many
so-
ways very different from other ponds that we've dealt with.
Yeah,
It
we're
is
not,
They
our
all have their
coldest
unique-
also. Coldest.
yeah, there's no way the town is going to pay to dredge.
No,
I'm not
I
talking
know.
about the whole
I
pond.
know,
I'm
but
talking about-
again, if we're not going there, then to what? Yeah, so, I think it's questionable whether this should be undertaken by the town, period. But if it should, I again think that this is not the time for it. We've got management plans kind of stacked up, and that's a good thing. But we're still looking at and monitoring Cedar Pond ongoing. We've got Pilgrim and Crystal that we hope will get implemented. We got Baker that we haven't touched yet, and we still have to pursue with Brewster. So at a point in time, you start
And
to
Uncle
have
Roger.
these management plans that by the time you can actually act on them, you need to redo them, because what you've got for information is possibly
Doesn't
no
change,
longer valid.
it doesn't change that much, unless it's some,
Well, then that speaks to the water quality reports with why are we updating the ones we've already done? I mean, if it's,
So, on this particular item, I will agree with you, Judith, that I'm not so sure it's a priority for fiscal '24. That's my opinion. I think at some point in time, it may be necessary to do this, but given the other funding things, I don't put it as high as a priority as items 4 and 5. So that's my opinion. And,
Well, after we had those trails, after those trails were created a number of years ago, I won't say we, on the school properties, there came the question from parents about poison ivy and ticks and whatever.
ticks.
I
That's what
assume at this
closed it
point
down.
they must have overcome that. But if I were a parent, one of the questions I would be asking is, what's the water quality that my kids are in contact with? So one of the things that at least getting this much data would do was to be able to say, and if somebody did some bacteria testing, at least we'd be able to say, yes, it is safe, or within these parameters, it is safe for human
to my
contact.
knowledge, it's staying on OPC's list for cyanobacteria monitoring. That hasn't been removed, has it, Ed?
No, that's still there.
I assume it's going to be done. So that's every 2-week testing for cyanobacteria. So if there is any indication of those numbers even starting to rise, never mind having, APCC puts out a warning on that to say the numbers are going up, to make it a weekly or at least a repeat test.
Cyanobacteria is not the only potential
Right.
health hazard.
No, I mean, there's also bacteria, but I don't,
not-
unless it's a bathing beach, those kinds of studies aren't done. We don't, that's not done,
But it could be.
it could be.
So,
The school was
I
concerned
mean,
about it.
personally, I would love to see funds being requested here diverted to item 4, I mean, but I don't think it should be completely ignored for the future. I'm just not so sure it is the need and the want. I think I would want to see a management plan done sometime for Bowling Pond. I'm just not so sure we need to do it in fiscal this soon. Does that make sense to you? And I'm not sure, Ed Eichner, he knows the data for this pond and what other towns might have be doing in a situation like this, but
So it gets back to needs and wants.
needs and wants, right, Michael? You said needs and wants.
So it sounds like this is like a want.
Yes, I did say that, and we are going to, you know what the economy's like and what we're
Right.
going right now, and it's really gonna come down, a lot of committees are asking for very valid projects, inclusive of all what you guys would request, we would
Right.
consider valid projects, but, we're going to have to make decisions based on what can immediately be done and what might be done at fall town meeting or spring, or is it really a want versus a need? So they're hard decisions. Everybody would like to support and
I know.
fund everything. That's not, unfortunately, where we're at, in my opinion. And again, I only speak for one person from the select board.
Right.
So if you were to take this out and move the money, you're still spending the money. If you moved it to the money.
Well, you're not really moving it because it won't appear.
Well, it's
No,
not,
if you
it's
did-
not been, it's not money that's actually allocated. Michael, I do have a question. I watched a select board meeting one night, and you You, and I think another member referred to 51. What, I had no idea what you were talking about, but it was reference to 51. Does that make any sense to you? Well, you were talking about committees requesting funding, and 51.
Right.
I missed.
Well, we only have 51,000 over our budget to get to our levy limit. So
Is that what it is?
once we get over 51, that's a number that moves, and I believe now it really has to do with our tax levy and last year. But that's kind of our starting point. So we only have 51,000. I'm hearing it hasn't been updated yet, but it is going up slightly. But then it could go down again, depending as these budgets. First off, there's the budgets of the town that need to be finalized, and that's the levy limit, and then the overrides later if we use up the 51. And I think you can see $51,000 having that extra capacity does not give us much room to do anything.
But are these requests all part of that 51? I mean, is that what's?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood. Yeah.
These would be, anything coming from the committees on the wish lists would be all over and above that. So if you're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars over that, which you'll have to do an override.
Okay. Thank you.
And did you have a question about, so they're coming out of wastewater funds, right? We said a special revenue funds?
Yes.
So how does that separate from the town budget request? Is that, those
I'm not-
revenue funds part of that
No.
discussion?
If you look in, I don't know whether you have at home last year's or any other years, there are streams of income that come from federal, state sources, whatever, and special funds, and it would not be part of the real estate taxes. They're the central part of the budget, but we want,
Well, as long as it can be funded within whatever that amount is.
Is,
So
right.
the water department, for instance, is a special revenue fund. It's probably one of the longest standing funds that the town has. And so what
you pay your water.
what pays
bill.
that fund, every time you pay your water bill, it goes into that fund. The water department then spends that fund. Town meeting still has to approve those expenditures. And if there are expenditures necessary that are not in that fund, then it goes into some kind of a warrant article override with additional funding.
So I guess
So
our
it's
question
not to
is
say
it-
that it's never going to hit it.
Yeah.
But again, you're talking about a fund now that is set up from the short-term rental taxes that come back to the town, that is covering the debt service to the sewering, that is covering all of the new work going forward for sewering and for other things, for the oysters, for the work that SMAST is doing, monitoring those. I mean, it's covering just about everything and anything to do with wastewater. So to say that there are monies available under that fund is really, our select board member is shaking his head.
Well, no, that's
there are
just
not
where-
monies available
but
under
those are
that
the-
fund to
That's
fund
what's
things.
generating
Right.
monies, is-
Yes.
Money,
is my point.
that's how it's been
Yes,
generated.
it is generating revenue.
Um,
Unfortunately, not sufficient revenue to cover
Yeah.
expenditure. Yes.
Ed Eichner, do you have any technical input with regard to Bowen Pond Management Plan? Do you have any comments that you wanted to make?
Nothing technical. I mean, the issue typically with a lot of the management projects that have been going on in the Cape have pretty much been focused on those with access.
Yeah.
And those have been the ones, there's been something that's driving that question of what's going on with this pond and what do we need to do to fix it. Boland, I think, fits into a slightly different category. It's got access, but it's not a full-blown boat ramp or anything like that. So, although the town does have land abutting the pond, so it's sort of in that wiggle room. It is not like Uncle Harvey's in that sense. So, that kind of thing. I think you've talked about all those issues But those are the things that I would sort of look at in terms of consideration and prioritizing things.
And that may well be town access and ownership as opposed to school, because I'm going to guess that the town's ownership of that shoreline area preceded the formation of Nauset Regional School Board, even though they are the ones that now manage it. But while it does have access, that access is closed to the public when schools are in session. So it does not have access.
Judith, I wasn't talking about the Nauset land. I was talking about the elementary school land. That's the town. Just to clarify.
Okay, thank you.
I think we need to,
It's the same, but it's the same issue again. When
con-
school is in session, it's closed to the public.
Conservation Trust has some property there, and so does the
But that's
state.
not-
State of Massachusetts, I believe.
I will bring to the next meeting a map of who owns what underneath of that body of water. It's an amazing puzzle.
Yep.
Oh,
But we do have to, going back to what we're trying to accomplish here of number 6, we do need to decide how we want to proceed with this particular funding request for the Boland Pond Management Plan,
I'll make a motion that we remove item 6
or
for
postpone placement for the fiscal '24.
this year, yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll consider it
I won't say
later.
get rid of it forever, but I think,
This year.
is that-
Because there's a lot of, there's a lot of asks,
right,
from
well,
all
I'm
the
trying
committees,
to,
and we're.
I'm
we
trying to
have
address
be
that.
Sensitive to it.
And how do the rest of the members feel about that?
You have to ask for a second.
Well, I will, yeah.
I'll second.
Okay.
Second, I'm sorry, I didn't know that was a full-blown motion, I'm
So I
sorry.
made a motion to remove it.
Further discussion?
I'm ambivalent. I think it needs to be done at some point.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's how I
Yeah,
feel.
Later
Even
on.
if we don't go forward with a management plan, we need to aggregate the data and be able to say to the public, this is what this is,
Well,
state
Maybe,
it's in at this point.
maybe some of that will come out with if item number 4 is funded.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah, excellent. It's in the
That would be
15.
important for that, too. Okay.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, abstain? We're on unanimous on that.
5-0-0. Motion to remove item 6, Bowen Pond, from the FY '24 request.
Or postpone.
Or item, or postpone.
I
and
want to see it
postpone.
disappear completely.
Remove it from
forever.
this year,
Remove item from,
this year.
right,
From this year,
Request.
for the fiscal '24 funding
request. I
request.
have it. Okay.
Okay, all right, so we have completed discussion of these items. We do need to have another meeting, I think, to discuss this, but, time is.
Why?
No?
I think we've made our decisions about those three
Well,
items.
no, but I mean to discuss more details going forward, but
Yeah.
we do have another meeting on the 27th.
Yeah, what still needs to be sort of fleshed out or made sure, I think that we're all on the same page, is the scope
Right.
for the, so I would say that would be back to Ed to come back to us with the proposal, so that we can then determine whether that captures everything that we had in mind.
Can you do that, Ed? Yeah,
Yes.
thumbs up, okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
All right.
that will save having him hopefully not go forward on something. He's going that way, and we thought we were all on the same path, but we're going that way. And thank you for joining us, Ed.
Yes,
Very
Ed, I
helpful.
really appreciate it. It was very helpful. The rest of our agenda, Ed, is going to be approval of minutes and things like that, so I can release you from your pain if you are welcome to continue to stay with us, but we appreciate your input on what we've already discussed. And thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
All right.
See y'all.
Thank you.
Have a lovely day.
Bye.
Same for you, Michael, if you don't want to stick around for the rest of it. But the next item on the agenda is the review and approval of the meeting minutes from December 19th, 2022.
Yeah, so where we're at with that is we discussed this at the last meeting, and I asked for additional comments. I did get a couple additional comments from Judith. None of those were substantive in terms of changing the meaning or anything. She just recommended under the Section 3, just to say that she'd like to see the data in a user-friendly format, including graphing with past year's data. It was more reflective of what she said. She also gave me a clarification on the wastewater management meeting, and it was just that she said at the wastewater management meeting, there was an extended point-by discussion on recommended revisions to the proposed Title V regulations. Originally, there was a piece in there that I had, that said the complexity of dependencies based on groundwater flows for meeting Orleans nitrogen reduction obligations under the new Title V. So I'm deleting that that complicated sentence there and really just simplifying it. And that was it. So the rest of you have seen all of the other changes that were proposed to those December 19th minutes. So I would move that we approve those minutes as modified.
Second.
Any further
Any further
discussion?
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Unanimous.
thank you.
5-0.
Okay, I'll get those in very quickly.
When we do get to the point where we discuss a final, or the scope, a little more details on the scope of the item 4, Bob Mullen did send some suggested format that we could use, which, when the time comes, I'll share with you. Public comments. Are there any hands up out there? I don't see them. There's no one in the audience, so any further comments or announcements or anything by the
So
committee members?
the only thing that I will just say is I apologize for having neglected to send out the agenda and packet for the last wastewater management advisory committee. I was sort of up to my
I know the feeling.
ass and alligators doing the estuary sampling and the herring, and with all of those pieces, I totally forgot it. So there's no reason why it needs to come from me. If anyone wants to get this, just put your name on the list for receiving agenda and packets, and they will automatically send it to you. So that then if I neglect or forget to do that, you will still know when the meeting is, where the meeting is, and have all the materials for it.
You do that on the website, or how do you get that?
Yeah, you do it on the website.
Okay.
Just like
Sign
you
up
do agendas for any other,
I'm sorry?
just like you sign up for agendas for any other.
Yeah, I'm signed up for agendas and agendas for probably 5 or 6 different committees, and I just get them and scan them
I didn't
and
realize
see if it's anything of
Yeah, right.
interest,
When you
and if
want.
it is, I'll tune into that meeting, and if it isn't, I'll just let it go.
And Judith, I did not include an update from you for this particular meeting because the focus was this.
Yeah, no,
So
no.
it's just so you understand, that was why I didn't do that, although I'm not sure you'll be here on the 27th, or you, but
No, I won't, but if I think of it, I will try to send you an update.
great. That would be excellent. Okay,
So I motion that we adjourn for today.
Second?
Oops, Carolyn, okay?
all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much. Thank you, Mia.